Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tap Into Your Creativity. I am so excited to have Bibby Gignilliat here joining us today. I will bring her in right now. You're in for, oops. Hopefully you got the request, Jeannie, there you are. Perfect.
Hi.
You just need to, I think you just need to flip your camera so we can see you.
Oh, you can't see? Okay. Well, sorry.
There you are. Do you see the little air? There we go. Perfect. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the program. I'm so excited for you to be here today and to be a part of my army of artists. I really can't thank you enough.
I'm excited to be here.
I know, I'm so excited. I just met you and I think we're like kindred spirits in a way. I just adore everything you do. I'm a huge fan.
Oh,
And
good.
I'm seeing all these people joining in. So thank you so much for being here. You're in for a treat. Like I said, it's going to be a ride that you will not want to miss. So, Bibby, thank you for joining me. And please tell us a little bit about yourself and where are you right now?
Well, I'm in my studio, which is in the ICB building in Sausalito. It's a historic shipbuilding building, and there's 150 artists in the building, many of which you've already interviewed. And so I feel really lucky to have a space here because it's a wonderful community. Um, and the other thing I would say is I started painting when I was age 10, and I loved it, and I had a critical teacher then and became a perfectionist. So I stopped painting and didn't start up again till 7 years ago when I took a wonderful class in Nick Wilton's studio, who's down the hall from me here. I didn't have a space here, but I took the class, and I was the worst one in the class. But I did get inspired at the end of the class to get a space in the building, so I got 100 square feet. Felt like an imposter, so didn't even want to leave the studio because I didn't want anyone to think I was an artist because I didn't feel like I was one. But what I did have was determination, so I showed up every single day that I could because I was running a company at the time. And now I'm in a almost 1,500 square foot space in the building, and I teach both online and in person. So made the
So let's just go back for a minute because you
okay.
just went like 150 miles per hour. So,
Okay, sorry.
um, no, that's okay. That's totally fine. I just want to know, and because you said something very critical to me. You said at 10 years old, you had a teacher that made a comment or comments to you
Yeah.
that made you think twice about you becoming an artist or keeping with the art. I think
Yeah.
that is just unbelievable, and it's unfortunate because someone in power can do something to a 10-year-old to shift the way of thinking. And at 10 years old, I believe, that's when there's no rules, right? That's
Right.
where you just pick up a crayon and do whatever you want and
Sure.
paint whatever you want and draw whatever you want. So can you take us to that moment and how it even happened, and what did your parents say about this?
So I was taking lessons at this wonderful place once a week. I loved my teacher, and that was when I was 10. And then it's back at, and that was a space outside of my school. But then at school, we had art class, and I had a difficult teacher in the art class. And she just criticized, I think I was using too much color for her or something. And can't remember exactly what it was, but it left a mark in me, definitely. And I also think I was very free. And they say you kind of start becoming a perfectionist around 11. And I think at that time I became a perfectionist. And I really think I was an abstract painter, but because it wasn't looking perfect, I didn't know what abstract painting was, and it wasn't looking perfect. So I didn't think I was any good. And then the teacher didn't help. So I just kind of stopped. But I did know that it was inside of me all along, and I did all these creative businesses, knowing that it was inside of me. And as I was trying to think about selling my company and what would I do, one thing that came to mind was this quote by Julia Cameron in the book The Artist's Way, where she says, "If you really want to know what you should do in life, look at what you loved as a child." And yeah, so there, I looked and it's art, 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 and that's what I did.
Did you do morning pages
Yeah,
by chance? You did.
yeah,
Okay.
those are so
Okay. They are great. I talk about it all the time. I just started this year for myself, which I'm late for the game, but you're never late for anything. And it really helps. It really helps to write down and just anything that comes to your mind, just put
sure,
it on paper and somehow it will come back to you. Would you
sure.
agree with that?
I think morning pages with art would be amazing, where you're just doodling first thing in the morning. Because you're probably a lot more free at that time than you are later in the day when you are thinking too much and that kind of thing.
Yes, I have my good friend Mariah Burtis that actually does this. Every single day, she wakes up at 6 a.m. or 7, and she does this little, I think it's a 4 by 6 or 5 by 7, and she just paints wherever she is. She brings her little, paint box, and she paints where I admire her. She has had maybe she's in the 5,000 day
For
and
sure.
counting. And it's amazing. She talks about it all the time and how it just the creative juices are just there.
Right. And her pieces look so different every day. Like not one looks the same. So that's what I admire.
I know. So, Bibi, did you go to college?
Yeah, I did. I went to Colorado College and I was a business major. Right out of college, I ended up becoming a computer programmer, which I believe is actually really creative. But I ended up working in a bank where I was just trying to find the bugs in huge programs that were already created. So it wasn't very creative for me. And also, I wouldn't say I'm an extreme extrovert, but I'm not totally introverted. So it was a little bit hard just being alone all day coding and that kind of thing. I think if I'd worked in Silicon Valley or something exciting like that, I might still be a programmer. You never know.
I don't see you as a programmer at all.
That's
Knowing you now,
but
it's
I
so
have the
funny.
logical side. I almost was a math major, so I had the left brain, right brain thing going on.
I love that. And then after college, what happened? After you got that job, then
So
what happened?
I did a million things after that job. I worked at, I moved out to California and worked at Backroads Bicycle Touring. I was an adventure travel bike leader and then got into the office there and learned all about PR through them, which I, apply in my current situation. And then from there, I went on to iMagnon and did database marketing. And then from there, went on to Williams Sonoma to do database marketing.
I
And
love that. And
had
can
a
you
real,
talk a little bit about the Williams-Sonoma piece of it? Because I
yeah.
don't know, a lot of people know that you are an amazing cook.
Oh, yeah. So after I was working in Williams Sonoma, but I was doing database marketing, which was really boring. Again, using my, mathematical mind. But what I really wanted to do at that time was go to culinary school. So one day I'd been doing my morning pages. I woke up one day, I felt like I had a straitjacket on as I thought of going to work. And I went to work that day and we were in a really boring meeting on linear regression programming. And I finally gave myself permission to go to culinary school. So the next day I resigned and went to culinary school. And after culinary school, I started a hands-on cooking party business, which I did for 20 years, where it was corporate team building in the kitchen. So the group would arrive, we would, serve a lively appetizer and then serve an appetizer and then give a lively cooking demo and then break the group into teams and they would cook under our guidance and then sit down to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And as I used to say in that world, like nothing brings people together better than cooking. But I also think that could be painting or whatever kind of creativity tends to bond people as they're creating something, especially if they're doing it together. So that's what
Did you, when did the idea of going to cooking school start for you?
Well, it's so funny. I just saw the movie at the Mill Valley Film Festival. I just saw the movie Julia about Julia Child, the biography. And when I was a young child, I would watch her show all the time. So that was in the back of my mind for, many years. I love to cook. I brought brownies every Friday to my biology class and I was always doing dinner parties and that kind of thing. And so that was in the back of my mind for many years. But again, I didn't give myself permission. And I think more often than not with creativity, we don't give ourselves permission. And it's really important to give ourselves permission and figure it out. Like when I was at cooking school, I was working at night, and I made it work financially. So there's all sorts of ways to make things work if you really want to do them, you know?
Well, I think, like you said, you have the right and left brain going. And so I think the combination really made you very successful in everything that because you were trying this and then you were trying that. And I think what I always talk about is just taking the chance and taking that first step. And the only one that can do that is yourself. No one will help you. No one will do it for you. You have to make that choice and take the step.
Exactly. One of my favorite quotes is leap and the net will appear.
Exactly. And you don't know. And if you don't take the chance, you'll never know, if you were meant to do that or not. And even if you fail, you probably learn something from it.
Yeah. Mistakes are portals of discovery is one of my favorite things to say.
I agree with that. So after 20 years of doing that and probably being in your own artistic way in cooking, because cooking and art go hand to hand, I believe. Right? Like I'm sure now that when you started painting, you're like, this feels very familiar to me.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and yeah, so let me just start by saying, it was really hard running a company. At one point, I had 60 employees, and all the creativity had gone for me because I'd already built it. And so I was just longing for that creativity again. And I was tiring of, just the demands of and stress of running a business. But yeah, there is a lot of similarities with cooking and painting. And when while I was still working, I took that class with Nick. And so I tried to figure out what I was going to before I actually left. And then
when was that? What year was that?
That was 2017. So I'd been painting at that point for 3 years, and I was having some success. I was getting a lot of sales at open studios and that kind of thing, and building my brand. And what sort of differentiates me from a lot of other artists is I love the business side. So I, had no problem focusing on it. So I was building my brand, but I also wanted to be able to do it full time. And so I sold my business in 2017 and have been focusing full time since then. And I believe it was a year later, I moved into this large studio and I needed to be able to finance it. So I started offering classes, and, I didn't feel ready to do that. And I talked to Nick Wilton, and he was like, you just have to jump in and do it. And then you'll make yourself ready. And so it's like, so I just did it. And
did you have a curriculum? Did you know what you wanted to teach? Did you know, was it intuition? And how did you build your course?
I wanted to teach, and I think the best, and I did it for a couple friends as a trial, before I did it, and then I just jumped in and did it. And as they say, build it and they will come. And the first class was sold out with a wait list, and it's been like that ever since, pretty much. And then last year, tough times are times for invention, and I had no interest in doing an online class, but during COVID, the first couple months, my income went dry, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I just decided, what the heck, I'll do an online class. And I did an online class, and I think I have close to 500 people from all over the world in the class, and it's been a real source of joy for me. And
that's amazing. I mean, it's so inspiring to think that in 2014, you were really an emerging artist. Maybe you wouldn't even call yourself that at that point.
No, I took the class with Nick, and I was the worst one in the class, so I would not, and it was in November.
I want to say that you're never the worst ever in any class, right? You have to take that word out of the equation.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of a joke. I always like to say it because I say it in part to inspire people, because a lot of people, someone just reached out today and said they didn't want to take my class because they weren't good. And, you just have to do it anyway. I was literally the worst one in the class. And if I showed you my paintings, you would agree. I've showed many people the paintings, and they're like, I cannot even believe that's your work. But what I did have was this determination. And so I think what I realized after Nick's class is I found a couple of other teachers that were collage teachers. And I realized that one of the reasons Nick's class was so hard for me is I needed to paint with paper. So once I started finding my medium, I knew, it all started falling into place because I found my way that way.
You found your rhythm, you found your voice, your
Yeah,
language, your right,
yeah.
like everything fell into place, I think. And a lot of people have asked, how do you find that language? How do you find your own special, what differentiates you from the next artist? And I think that by exploring and by just throwing yourself out there and really showing up every single day and trying different things, you will find your voice.
Yeah, Mark Eanes, one of my mentors, said, everybody copies. You just want to do it better. So I like that.
I love Mark Gates. He's been
Yeah,
here twice. So
yeah.
I adore him. He's someone that if you don't know him, go look for him, run to go find him. He's unbelievable.
He's amazing. And so anyway, I think you just find your voice, and I think your voice changes too. Like my work over time has changed a lot, but
And it's okay, right? It's okay
well,
for
I
it to
think you
change.
still see it. You still see there's a slight similarity, but the voice changes. And right now, I'm exploring a little more minimalism. And earlier on, I was more loud and bold and that kind of thing. And I think as you change and grow spiritually and emotionally, your work's going to change, and your influences are going to change based on your travels and going to shows, and as Julia Cameron says, it's really important to have artist dates or whatever you want to call them, where you go out and Mark Eames says the same thing, like every week you should go see someone's show or do something to inspire those creative juices. And it could be
So
gardening. Maybe you garden, like one woman down the hall was gardening a lot during COVID, and all of a sudden all her work has flowers in it. So, it doesn't have to be going to a museum. It can be whatever inspires you. And that's where the cooking comes in. Sometimes, the intuition of cooking and, working with the foods and the flavors can rub off on a piece of art.
yes, for sure. And can you tell us a little bit about how, I know you have a lot of business background, but
Yeah.
how did you create your brand and how do you even start? What tips would you have for, emerging or even established artists that are not being able to build on their brand? What's the most important things that has worked for you?
I love that question. So thanks for asking it. I would say, I'll say a couple things. The first thing is, I think we have to get over the fact that you might not like business. Just get over it, because if you want to be a successful artist, you're going to have to do business. So once you accept it and stop resisting it, it'll be much easier, because resistance blocks the flow. So that's my first tip. And the second tip is, like, I used to go before COVID, I do it now more at home, but I would go every morning and spend about an hour to an hour and a half in a cafe doing the business side of my business. So I put that time in, and then I go to the studio, and I would make it fun. I would go to the local bakery. They have outdoor seating in a beautiful setting. I would get a great thing to eat, and I would sit down and then do my business. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, all the social media platforms are owned by those social media platform companies. So you need to develop your own list, because Instagram is changing the algorithm every day lately. And and Facebook is too. And I remember when I first joined Facebook, I was an early adopter, and every post I did went to every person that followed me. And now, they say it only goes to about 6% of your following. So the same thing is happening now on Instagram. So if you have your own mailing list, you can decide who gets what and how often you mail. And I noticed the biggest shift in my business when I committed to sending out newsletters twice a month. And I would talk about my classes or whatever I had, whatever newsworthy things I had to say in the newsletter, I would send it out. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is to initially, when you're starting out, try to participate in a lot of different things to get your work out there, because at first it's about getting the work out there for people to see. And then as you get more established, you can start being more discriminating, but people just need to see your work. So that's what I would say.
So what is your business plan ABC? Like, what does that look like? Would it be, you know, obviously having your brand out there, but also how do you make that convert into dollar amount?
Well, one of the biggest shifts, you know, I had Instagram. I had about 6,000 Instagram followers back in December of last year, and that was after, you know, I joined. I was an early adopter of Instagram, and I joined in 2014 when it was a relatively new thing. Um, and I was just feeling like something didn't feel right about it for me, and I had a conversation with one of my pals and amazing artist. Check her out, Amy Torgerson down the hall, former studio mate. And I was like, something just doesn't feel right. You know, I'm just posting a lot about my sales and that kind of thing. And she said, you love teaching, so why don't you post something about, you know, tips and that sort of thing. So I started doing these Instagram reels, and I would post a tip like once a week on Instagram. And, you know, when you do reels, you can put, you know, fun music and stuff. And I just started trying it out. Well, and I had a lot of fun with it at first, like doing some crazy things, like, you
I
know,
saw it.
yeah, people just go and check them out. But anyway, dancing and then throwing paint in it, whatever. So what's crazy is Instagram's investing a lot in reels, right?
Reels.
And so what happened was since last December, I've gotten like 30,000 followers, mostly from those Instagram reels, because they get going viral, and so it gets a lot of new followers. And then from those followers, I've gotten a number of sales on Instagram, but also I've gotten a lot of signups for my online class, and it's already developed and everything, so it's passive income in a way. Like I can be sleeping, and someone in England can sign up for my you know, class. And so I've gotten, you know, in-person class signups and online class signups, etc. So it's been really good. And then of course, you know, people see you, and like I'm getting all these influencer things where people reach out and say, would you be an influencer? And I'm pretty particular about who I do that with. It has to be related to painting. And so somebody wrote to me, and I did those shoes that you paint, and that was a big hit, and, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, my friend Pat just had actually a post today about what is happening with Instagram because they're so frustrated. And she has over 60,000 people, but she's like, every day I either go down or up. It's just like, it's not steady as it used to be. And I would say, just don't get frustrated.
Yeah.
Still photos are getting buried. I mean, people are not really getting to that, but don't play the game. If you love still photos, do that, you know.
Totally. Totally.
And if you want to do reels, do reels. I mean, obviously it has worked tremendously for you because you're saying that you got 30,000 followers in 1 year by doing all this reels.
Yeah.
And you have converted them into money.
Good to me because I'm giving. I'm giving to everyone, and people are so kind about it. They reach out and say, "Wow, this was," you know. So it feels good, you know. Whereas sometimes when I was posting before, I just didn't feel quite as good when I'd be like, "Oh, this piece sold" or whatever. It felt like, "Hey, mom, look at me," versus more like, "What can I give?" So now it feels good in that way.
Yeah, because you're giving information and very valued information that people,
Sure.
you know, are thirsty for it because people don't really know what's happening. So
Yeah.
when you give something that you know that it's working for you,
Yeah.
it's really amazing. So, Bibby, one more thing. How did you create your online course? Did you just gather what you had from your in-person courses, and then you just kind of transfer that into, because I know it's very different, and I don't know if you do Zoom classes or if you, how is the that, how does that work?
So my online class was all taped in 2 days in my studio, and it's basically my 1 day, full day class that's, you know, broken up into, I believe it's 16 modules, and they're bite-sized pieces. No pun intended with the food reference. So people, like a buffet, and it's a bite-sized pieces. Anyway, so people, can take it. They can watch one module and then go and do their module. Go do it, and then come back and watch the next one. And that's how I recommend doing it. And then, doing the whole thing that way, where you just watch it and then do it, then watch it and then do the next step. And so it was all filmed in like 2 days, and then I launched it a couple months later. It took a while to get, I didn't realize how much work was involved in getting it launched, because you had to have it on your website, and you have to be very specific, and then you have to load it onto a web, platform. And I chose Coursecraft out of the recommendation of a friend. And I worked with Alice Sheridan. A lot of you may know her from Nick Wilton, et cetera, but she's an amazing consultant. And I don't know if she's doing a lot of consulting anymore, but she did some one-on-one coaching with me, because I'd never launched an online course. I didn't know what to do. And so she kind of helped me get my Facebook group set up. And so the beauty of the class is people can take it at their convenience when they want. And I'm not dealing with Zoom, because I'm not super technical anymore. Believe it or not, having been a programmer, but I'm not at all. So I just needed something very straightforward. And it's worked out well. And then I just go on to the Facebook group. Mostly I try to go daily and just see if there's any questions or anything. And
I think also what you just said is key. Finding the right people to help you advance. Yep. So it's all about working together. And if you don't know something, go find someone that does, and does better than you.
And I would recommend to most artists, like being in a community of artists. I mean, it's amazing right now. Like, I'm looking at this apparatus that my colleague Andrew Faulkner gave me to use today, because I didn't have a tripod. So he had this fancy one. It's got light and everything. You guys can't see it, but it's got this big circular light. And he did the research and he figured it out. Now I know exactly where to go to get one, that kind of thing. But every day there's someone that comes up with something that's a reference, resource. And then we're all always sharing, like, oh, you should try getting in this show or that show. And so we all support each other in that way. So it's really
100%. And I can tell you that when I started tapping into your creativity, I went to the people that knew me, and they jump into it right away. Now, I take the chance and I just do cold emails, and hopefully people know me by now, or if not, they will take the chance. But it's building a community of artists and trusting each other, and coming to this platform where you're talking about all this incredible, amazing things, and people will take something, food for thought, right? So that's incredible. So Bibby, I'm so excited because you're going to take us around your studio and show us your beautiful artwork.
Okay, so now, like I said, I'm not super technological, but we'll see how this goes. Step up and get the phone out of this little thing.
And then flip the camera so you'll be able to show us what you're looking at.
Okay. All right, now, so I'm going to flip it back this way. So I'll start with my studio, so you can kind of get the idea of, like, it's in this wonderful old shipbuilding building, and it goes way back. It's big.
Wow.
And you kind of walk in, and I kind of set it up so people could see what the art might look like in their home. So there's a nice couch there, and then I've got a grid of 12 24 by 24s, and this is my most popular size. And
I love that. Is that on wood panel?
Yeah, they're wood panels, and they're plywood panels. And then I have Mark Oberfelder frame them for me with this amazing basswood that he uses.
Is he a local? Is he a local artist?
Yeah,
framer. Okay.
Yeah, he's and so you can see all of these. I use a lot of whimsy. They're sort of childlike drawings in these 24 by 24s. If each series has their own personality.
I love that series. It's so rich, and it feels like they have a lot of history, each one of them.
Yeah, so I start every painting. I'll go over to this one. This one was in the DeYoung Museum last year, and it was a collaboration with Mark Oberfelder. And all my pieces start out as a layer of collage. And so then when you zero in on them, you can kind of see some of the rich history right here. This is, I think, Japanese text.
You probably sand that off and you can
Yeah,
see it,
so
right?
I sometimes sand it off. I sometimes cut into it, but it's got such rich history. And we went to the salvage store and
God, I
got some
love
cool
that.
stuff. And then this is a big, gigantic billboard scrap I found on the streets of San Francisco and stole. So, but then this is my newest series, which, as I said, I'm going more minimal. And what's
Yeah.
kind of fun about this series, again, they all start off with collage, and then I come in with paint, but it leaves this distressed look when you sand it, and little bits of what's underneath come through, like you can't really see, but there's little text there.
What kind of
And
paint do you use? Do you use acrylic paint?
yeah, I use acrylic house paint. These are all little color mixes, and then I drew lines on this to kind of look like an old school paper
Yeah, totally. I love that.
with a little bit of a wash. So, and then let's see, I'll go over here. This is the one I was sitting in front of. This is a newer
Wow.
piece, and it's pretty big. You can see the stool where I was sitting to give you an idea. It's 72 by 84. I tend to work really large. Um,
Why
so
is that? Why do you like the large scale?
I think I have a big personality and I have a lot of energy and I want to be able to really spread all over. I'm gonna.
I love
By the way,
it.
this is the
Wait,
little
wait, wait.
apparatus that
Let's go
Andrew.
back. Let's go back for a second. Go back to that. Yes. So, um, the I mean, it almost looks like 3D to me, and it has that rhythm and the repetition of the line. So it has a lot of the elements of what a non-objective art is.
Uh-huh.
So I really enjoy what you're going
Towards.
for.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I really do. I really see the community of elements that you have on the
Yeah.
bottom
Uh-huh.
left side, but
Uh-huh.
also, like I said, the repetition of the line. So it gives it like a rhythm. It's almost like a music.
Well,
Um,
it's very intuitive of you because it's called lyrical, and if I zoom in
oh,
up close, there's music
oh, no
in here.
way. Oh
Yeah, and
my
it's supposed to
gosh.
feel like that. And this is, old paper. One of the things that one of my mentors said at one point a couple of years ago, she said to me, "You're not getting enough dimension in your work." And so I've really focused on getting dimensions. And so if you
Yes,
kind of
I can
look at this,
totally see that. Yes.
it's weaving in and out and under and over.
A
Um,
hundred percent. Your
so
eye goes from one side, from up and down, and from side to side. And you guys, I didn't know, I've never seen this painting before, so it's very
that's
funny that I
You
got your
picked up
vibe
on
here.
it totally. You did a great job. And then here's some more 24 by 24s that are a little bit more minimal.
Yeah.
You can kind of see
Oh,
that
yeah.
this
Why do
one's,
you choose to use house paint versus going to, an art store and getting,
well, that's a great question. So this piece in front of me, I can't really show you the magnitude, but it's 80 by 72. And when
how
you're
heavy
dealing
is
with,
that? How
huh?
heavy is that? How
Really heavy.
heavy is that?
It's a wood panel, so it's pretty
Mm.
heavy. And the reason I choose wood is because I want to get this kind of texture, and you can sand it better. I do get good texture on canvas, like this is canvas,
Oh, it
and
is.
you can get pretty good texture. But I get really good texture on wood, and I can dig into it in a way that I can't on canvas.
So sorry,
But to
going
back to
back
your
to the
question
painting. Yeah,
about,
yeah.
I like to use house paint because when you're dealing with a piece this large, it's just so easy to just pour it out of the can. It's less expensive. I love the texture of it. I use a lot of drips in my work. You can kind of see these drips. And the
Hmm.
texture of house paint just is perfect for it. By the way, this is crazy, but this is another new piece. It's called Wings, and it's all done with ink.
It
So
is?
yeah, it's all ink. You can kind of
Wow.
see the excitement and movement, and it looks kind of like a
Yes.
butterfly. You can't really see it. The lighting isn't so good, but
No, you can
um,
see it. You can
yeah.
definitely see it.
And then
Wow.
coming back here, we've got some fun stuff. This is a newer piece, and then this is a relatively new piece that I did last
God,
year.
I love that piece. It's so whimsical. I love all the mark making on it. And it's simple, but yet so complex. And it gets you again to see the whole piece, even that little bottle that you have on the top, left. It's like
Yeah.
it pulls it all together somehow.
Yeah, and then I have a semic writing over in this corner here.
So, do you think of design and composition as you are approaching a painting, or does that come after you start editing? How does your process work?
Well, let me say this in terms of Nick Wilton. Nick will often say, figure out your design first and then, go at it. I actually approach it differently. I think that's a great way for a lot of people, but it wasn't working for me because the texture for me is so much a part of my design. I have to build the texture first. So my first if I have a blank canvas, I first paint it, then I put down a layer of collage, then I paint over it, and then I sand it, and then I start responding to that and creating my design. And sometimes I'll draw it out, and sometimes I'll just paint and see what emerges. But I try to stay in more of an intuitive place versus an analytical place. I got a vocational master's in energy medicine, and I think it's really important to stay in your intuition when you work. And then at the end, bring in the analyzer. Or if you ideally can create a dance between the analytical part of your mind and the intuitive part, that makes the best art, I think. And more often than not, people that come to my class will be paralyzed because they'll be in their analyzer and not in their intuitive place. So I spend the whole morning trying to get people to just be in their intuitive place, and it's very freeing for most people.
Yeah, it's I would say that for anyone that starts a class, they're thinking that whatever they're going to do, it's so precious, and
Yeah.
you cannot go into that mindset thinking everything is so precious.
Yeah, for sure. Here's some more. And then
Wow.
on this wall, we
Oh
have
my gosh.
more.
So do you work on the wall, or because I see sometimes it depends what you're working on. Sometimes you're on table, sometimes you're on the wall. What is your
Yeah.
preference?
So, for example, this piece that I just am working on now, when I first started and I'm painting it, I paint it with a roller. So I need it to be on the table. And then I do the collage on the table. And then I paint it. And then once the paint dries and I sand it, I put it on the wall like this, and I'll just start painting it. And because I want to get those rich drips and stuff, and you don't get that if it's flat.
And I know you always talk about finding your collage pieces and then you dip them in water before
Yes.
right? Can you talk
Yeah.
about that process a little bit?
Yeah, let's see. I don't know. I might be able to show it to you here.
Oh, that would be
Uh,
amazing. Yeah.
so I'm doing it one-handed, so we'll see. It might be a little awkward. So there, I dipped it in collage, and then I used this varnish right here, which you can get on Amazon, Urethane. And I
Okay.
talk about it a lot in my videos, so they could just go to my reels. And then I just brush it with the varnish, and the varnish is my glue, but it's also my top coat. And then I put it down, and this is just a throwaway board kind of that I'm working on. And then I'll just brayer it down. And the wetting makes it go flat, but also the brayering makes it go flat. And if it's
Okay.
a tough scrap, like when I say a tough scrap, if it's really thick, what I may
Yeah.
do is I may use a gel medium, or sometimes I'll use Power Grab, or sometimes I'll use Yes Paste or Mod Podge or something a little thicker than the varnish.
Okay.
But for something like this, it's just fine using the varnish. It's only things that are really thick, like maybe cardboard if I'm putting down, or like a paint chip or something. Sometimes things that want to curl, you need something heavier.
So I'm sorry, what do you use for the heavier stuff?
Like one of four things: gel medium, Mod Podge. Sometimes I use Power Grab if I'm doing something like putting like this is a metal
Is
letter.
that aluminum? Yeah.
So I have
Okay.
to use Power Grab for that, and you get that at the hardware store. Um,
Right.
and let's see, what else do I use? I think that's it. I might have said it earlier, but I can't remember what else I said. But
Will
like
you
this
show
one,
us your
I was having trouble
painting?
getting
Oh,
this scrap down, so it wouldn't go with the varnish. So I came in and put some gel medium on it because it's a big piece of cardboard. So, and this is a what do they call them? Paint. It's dried paint that dried on the edge of my container, and I peeled it off and I put it on here. There's a name for them, and I'm drawing a blank right now. But anyway, I glued it on here with
Oh,
gel medium.
that worked.
Yeah.
It's there. It's going nowhere.
Yep.
Oh my gosh,
So,
I love that. So can you show us that little cart of all your paints and stuff, your
oh, sure.
supplies?
Yeah, I was thinking I've outgrown it. So I mix paints in a lot of different ways. I'll show you another container I use. These are all my brushes, and they're kind of messy. I'm not very neat. You can kind of see how messy I am. But then over here, I have these other containers that I get from the container store. And they're little mixed paints.
Oh, wow.
And so I mix
Oh,
paint colors, and then I'll put them in here, and they'll last a couple months. And
they
then,
will? Do you put a little
yeah, if you
medium on
spritz
it
them,
or?
or you can. One of my friends down the hall, again, I learned this from another artist, but one of my friends down the hall will put like a damp paper towel over it, and that sort of keeps it moist. So
So you
that's
don't put
another way.
any kind of medium on that on the painting. It will on the paint. It will
It
stay
stays
put.
wet, yeah, because it's enclosed. And I'll just spritz them, like I said, with water. And here you can see I just did this layer of collage. This is an under layer of a painting I'm going to paint over today. So this is my first layer. And sometimes on the rare occasion, I'll leave it just like this and I'll do my design with all this showing. But usually this all gets covered up with just little bits showing.
I
So
love that. Is there rhyme or reason when you're collaging?
not really. I usually pick a lot of bright colors, and some of it has dimension, like this is a thicker piece right here. So
Mhm.
when I put the paint over it, it'll leave a relief. So,
Okay. Yeah, I think it's important for people to know to use different weights on paper and different, right?
yeah.
Different textures.
And I use a trowel to apply paint, and so I can choose little windows that I want to leave open. So if I like this text, I can just leave a little bit showing. It allows you to do that pretty easily. So,
When you use canvas and you're doing collage,
yeah,
how do you apply the collage into the canvas? Is it the
same way. Same way.
same way?
Yeah.
So you use the varnish
Mm-hmm.
and
So the
you use
painting that
that.
I like, this little
Yeah.
uh, painting, which just sold, by the way, it was so exciting. Um,
Yay.
this was all applied the same way I just showed you, but it's on canvas.
Okay.
And I got some great texture on here, using the sander, but it's all canvas.
Amazing. So you didn't get a lot of push and pull from adding all
No,
that and then
I
okay.
think, and if you're worried about that, you can always varnish the back of the canvas, and that kind of makes it more firm, or put glue on the back, like Elmer's glue or something that makes it more stiff.
Yeah. It
So,
actually helps a lot.
yeah. So this
So
piece was
Bibi,
all a lot of
yeah.
paper bags in it. Did
Oh,
that
I
during
can see
COVID.
that now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see yeah, that's so cool. They're upside down.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
So, Bibi, you are so incredibly what am I on my train of thought? I am so happy because you're donating a piece for Feeding America. So
Yeah.
if you can show us that piece because we're
Yeah.
super excited, and if any one of you viewers would like to purchase a piece from, it's an original piece by Bibi. We're asking $300. It's a 14 by 14 mixed media. Please DM me or Bibi and we'll let you know what you guys do. But it's pretty like forward. You just make the donation to Feeding America. We're asking $300. That means that you guys will be feeding 3,000 meals. So this is so important to me and to Bibi and to all my army of artists because we're all working together to help our community at large that are still in such need of food. And so if you are interested in this, please DM me or Bibi right now. We're asking $300 for it. And it's amazing, Bibi. So thank you so much for doing this, and hopefully we'll sell it today.
Okay. Thank you for having me on the show, and I hope.
Well, before you go, I want you to turn around the camera and go maybe sit down again and put it in the pedestal.
Okay, hang on
I'm gonna turn on the comments right now, and I'm gonna ask people if you guys have any questions, please ask right now. This would be a perfect chance for you to ask Bibby anything.
I think I'm just gonna hold it. I'm having trouble.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry, I can't get it in there.
So, Bibby, who's your inspiration? Who inspires you?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Right now, I'm being inspired by Joan Snyder, but I have a whole slew of books I'll show you real quick here in my studio, and you can see some of the people that inspire me. Cy Twombly, Jasper Johns.
I was going to say Jasper Jones has to be like on the top of your list.
Yeah, Frank Stella, Robert Rauschenberg, Richard Diebenkorn. So a lot of different people inspire me. And then in the building, there's a lot of people that inspire me, a lot of artists. And then I have several teachers that I studied with, like Nick Wilton.
And actually, someone wants you to show them again the varnish, if you don't mind showing that can again.
Sure. And I got it on Amazon, and but you can get it also at Home Depot.
Okay. And that one,
particularly like
talk about the piece that is for sale, the inspiration behind the piece.
Yeah, let me okay, so this is a satin urethane. I used to use semi-gloss, but now I like satin. And I like the green can because it's UV protected.
Awesome.
And also mold and mildew protected. And the piece, let's go back to the piece, is called Victory on the Inside. So, you know, a lot of my work is a reflection of what I'm going through personally. And I'm learning more and more to go inward and for my answers and guidance, as opposed to something I used to do a lot of, which was going outside of myself for the answers. And so this piece is sort of a reflection of that time, realization, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I'm turning back on the comments again, because we wanted just to make sure that we could see the painting.
Okay.
So, Bibby, if you were just starting now, what would you say to that person now? What would you say that would be the most important thing?
You mean if I were trying to talk to somebody that was starting out?
Yeah.
I would say, somebody made the comment, you got to do your 1,000 hours. And I have mixed feelings about that comment, but I do think that you need to practice and take a lot of risks. And one of the things I'm really working on now, and I really work on this with my students, is letting go of any attachment, because anytime there's attachment to a part in a painting where you're just gripping to it, that's where the block comes from. So it's kind of like Michael Singer, one of my spiritual teachers, says, it's like a river that wants to go, run, and there's rocks in the river. And if there's rocks in the river, it blocks the flow. And anytime you have an attachment and you're clinging to a part of the painting, it's actually blocking the flow. So
risk attachment. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Mark Ains is the teacher that we kept talking about. His last name is E-A-N-S. Mark is his first name.
Yeah, Mark Ains has a design class, but also a color class. And he's just a wonderful name. So he's a lifelong
and he's so knowledgeable, and he's amazing. So I truly admire his work. And my daughter just joined. So hi. Thank you for joining.
I want to tell people too is, I found all the right teachers. I gave myself basically my own master's in art, and I'm really glad I didn't go to school, because I studied exactly what I wanted to study with the teachers I wanted to study with. And most of the teachers I selected were amazing teachers, and some of them ended up being mentors to me over time. And I would just say, find all the right teachers for you, because the teachers that were right for me won't necessarily be right for you. So find all the right teachers for you on what you want to study. Like if you're a figurative painter, find the figurative teacher, etc. You know.
Exactly. And what is coming next for Bibby? What's happening for 2022 or the end of 2021? What's happening?
Well, right now I'm getting ready to for our big open studios. It's our biggest event of the year, and we haven't been able to do it in a while, obviously. So I'm gearing up for that. So I'm treating it like a show and trying to get as much work done as possible before that event. And that's the first weekend of December, December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And anyone watching is welcome to come. It's going to be an incredible show, and there'll probably be 100 artists in the building open. So that's what the short-term thing that I'm working on. And then for next year, I'm looking at possibly doing another online class, and I'm also thinking about possibly doing retreats, but I haven't gotten that far. I'm kind of waiting for it to emerge.
Oh my God.
Incubating.
Me in. I'm so excited about that. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So where can people find you?
Yeah, probably the easiest place to find me is on Instagram. It's Bibby G Art. Is my handle, BIBBYGART, but also my website is bibbyart.com, BIBBYART.com, and there you can see my artwork in detail, and I have a lot of it in a setting because I feel like that allows the person that's considering purchasing it to potentially see what it might look like in a setting. It helps, I think it helps with selling it. So you can go there and see the art in detail.
Oh, I'm so excited. And you just mentioned having your first art in person, and we're having in my building the first in person this weekend.
Oh,
5th,
good
6th,
luck.
and 7th. So I'm super excited. So if you're in Minneapolis, please come and join me. I would love that. And I can't thank you enough. I see a comment here. Nice to see you, Bibby. I took your class a few years ago, and I changed me in so many ways. So inspired by your art.
Oh, thank you.
And I think like her, so many people watching this are going to be super inspired. This interview will stay in my IGTV. It will also be on my YouTube channel, Sandra Feli Art, and I will send it to Bibby. So I'm sure Bibby will post this as well. So thank you so much for being a part of my army of artists. I hope someone DM me or Bibby to purchase this incredible artwork that we're going to have for sale. And again, 100% of the proceeds go to Feeding America. So if you're thinking, if you want to do something good today, please buy this painting. You will help 3,000 meals. So to be provided to people in need. So thank you again, Bibby. It was a pleasure to have you today, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.